Hey, I'm an extra from Camp Rock 2, and this is what I did last week. Let's start off with the new content that came out this past week, which is Horrific Visions, which I did on stream for about like an hour and a half on Wednesday. That VOD is up on YouTube. If you want to watch that, click the top right thingy. I'll be back this Wednesday at around 3 to 3:30 Pacific, so if you want to come say hi, I'd love to see you. But overall, they were as I expected. They were tedious, they're boring, and it just feels like it's a limited time event to get some cool collectibles rather than a actual bit of permanent content. It doesn't feel like it really fits with anything in the War Within so far. And having now played it, I don't really know why this was time gated. This isn't really that time intensive of a thing, and there's not really that many upgrades, I don't think. Outside of the enchants, really, which, I mean, at this point in the season, who cares? If you've already given us Turbo Boost, is an enchant really going to make that much of a difference? But then on top of that, the time-gated content is time-gated because you can't unlock the entire tree. So I don't really know what's going on, and it feels like for the first time since Dragonflight that for at least me as a casual player of the game, I've returned to feeling reserved about Blizzard. This just feels like a really lazy thing to add back to the game, and again, the time gating on top of time gating is just questionable. Let me know what you think though, because apparently this is something that a lot of people were excited about. People like Horrific Visions, so if you're one of those people, let me know, but if you're not, even if you also agree with me that they are not fun, let me know down below in the comments. Moving into the gear for the week, my warrior got one more item level and is ending the week at 672. In my vault, I had a mythic trinket that I didn't need, so I ended up taking just the gem slot, which is the last one that I needed, so hopefully moving forward, I am able to get some mythic pieces in there that I actually need. But this week I only had a couple of pieces left to upgrade with crests, so I did that. Everything is fully upgraded there, and then I also bought the thing to recraft my weapon by 6 item levels as well, so that's fully upgraded too. With that gear though, it's made it so that I no longer need gilded crests for anything, so what I think I'm going to do is just focus on getting them passively through Mythic Plus every week, instead of doing the 3 tier 11 delves plus Mythic Plus. And then with delves, because I've purchased everything I want with Undercoin, and I have all the seasonal journey stuff done, I don't need to do anything past a 1 anymore. So I'm just going to spam those to keep working towards the completion achievement, and when I realized I could do that, I felt a bit of relief, which is when I realized I'm still a little bit annoyed with how tier 11s currently feel. My expectation this season was that with the changes that they made, gear would eventually help make 11s feel easier, and they definitely feel better than they did in Season 1, and they're a lot more doable, but I still feel like I'm getting a lot of damage thrown at me. Like there still feels like there's pulls where auto attacks are taking out like a third of my health, or where I have to maybe kite or spam cooldowns to try to stay alive. So this realization has made me feel the same way in Season 1, where I just hated doing high level delves, even just for the 3 gilded crests per week. So like I said, I'm just very happy that there's no more incentive for me to do them anymore, or at least until next season, which is where I'm hoping that there's a few more adjustments done to how gear impacts high level delves. I just feel like eventually you should be able to do them with ease at tier 11. Then just really quick with Mythic Plus, I ran just a few 10s and 11s on my warrior. They felt so much easier, obviously with everyone's increased item level with Turbo Boost, as well as the enchant that's coming out for the helm. I'm probably just going to stick to running at least 110 every week so I have the vault option, but I'd ideally like to do 4. And I might focus on doing those more on the weekends instead of during the week, just because it's a lot easier to win battlegrounds during the week, it feels. So that's ideally where I could kind of spend most of that time, and then on the weekend do PvE. Which, speaking of PvP, just moving on to my hunter for a bit, I haven't talked about him really at all in terms of his gear, but I've been farming war crests in the world for conquest each week to get that gear. But Blizzard removed the conquest cap last week, similar to how they did with Season 1, so I was able to farm out the last 4 pieces that I needed, the 2 rings and trinkets. So my hunter is now fully geared out in 636 prized gladiator gear, which scales up to 684 in PvP content. My stats on that gear aren't ideal though, because I didn't look at the best in slot stats when I was first buying the first half of the gear I had, so unfortunately I'm not as good with stats as I should be, so I probably won't bother getting more conquest this season. I'll probably just focus on buying the correct gear in Season 3. But with him on Monday, I jumped into some battlegrounds for like I think 4 hours, and I didn't lose a single one. It was fantastic. Oh my god, it was so good. And then of course I went in on the weekend again to try to PvP with him, and we were just getting stomped. So I ended up switching over to my warrior and did some PvP on him for the first time since I think like Shadowlands. And I was a little bit more fortunate. I won, I'd say, about half of the games I played. I did have fun. Warrior is just a really fun class to play, be it in PvE or especially PvP. It feels really nice just obliterating someone standing right in front of you. But in PvP specifically, I don't really like playing melee just because I don't like having to rush into a group of enemies and hope that with my cooldowns, I can stay alive. With my healers, they can keep up. Because on my hunter, I can stand in the back, cast, and not really be the focus of attention, whereas on my warrior, I'm right there in the middle of the battle, and everyone seems to focus me. I just don't like that. It's just very stressful, and it causes a lot of reses. I just spend a lot of time of the battleground at a graveyard, so that's not fun. But there were a few games where I was doing well, and I really enjoyed those. And then from there, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. For achievements, I got 30 more points, which were just the Horrific Visions achievement. I didn't really do a whole lot of stuff this week. And then I got one new mount, which is the Void Forged Stallion, which you get from doing a thing in Horrific Visions with one mask active. Each zone has a horse shoe you pick up, and then you go to the Dwarven District, kill a rare, and you get it. But that's it for me. That's everything that happened to me this past week and all the things that I wanted to talk about. Let me know how your week went, whether it was in-game or out of it. What do you think of Horrific Visions? What do you think of this patch as a whole? Anything and everything, I would love to hear about it. If you like these videos where I check in with you every week to let you know what's going on in my world, give me a thumbs up on this video because it really helps out. If you're not yet subscribed and you keep getting these videos recommended and you're enjoying them, it would mean a lot if you hit that subscribe button. If you're already a subscriber, I love you lots. In talking about Horrific Visions and how tedious and boring they are, a video comes to mind that I made talking about whether or not grinding is pointless. The obvious answer is yes, but on a more conversational basis, why do we do this? If that sounds interesting to you, you can click the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. I love you lots. Have yourself a fantastic week. I'll talk at you next week.